Welcome back. Let's give the user the ability to mine the transactions in the pool using the front end. We're going to add a new button in the transaction pool that allows a user to hit the mine transactions endpoint. This is going to take all the transactions in the pool and use them as the data for a new block in the chain. So back in our transaction pool.js file, first up, let's import the button class from React Bootstrap. So import the button from the React Bootstrap module. So import it from React-Bootstrap. Then we're going to add a new button in the render method after a header ruler component. So in the render, after a header ruler, after all the transactions from the pool, let's add a button. And the text for this is going to say mine the transactions. Let's make sure it has that BS style of danger so that way it has a nice red color. We're also going to place these properties on their own lines. All right. And on a click of this, we're going to fire a button, or rather a method that we'll create in just a moment called this.fetch mine transactions, which is going to make the request to mine the transactions in the backend mine transactions request. All right, once you have that down, up at the top of the method or the top of the class, let's add our fetch mine transactions method that is a class property set to a callback function. We're going to fetch at the document location origin. So have a template string that renders document location.origin, rather interpolates the document location origin. This will go to /API/mine-transactions. All right. Then we're going to follow up this fetch that returns a promise with a callback function. And normally we'd call this.response.json on the response, but this is a GET request whose result is a redirect to the blocks component. So it's not returning JSON, it's returning a message that says redirect to /blocks. Therefore, we're going to reflect this in the front end behavior. If the mine transactions request is successful, well, we'll redirect the user to the blocks page. In order to achieve this redirection, we can import the history object from its location one directory back. So /history to get the history object. And instead of doing response.json, we're going to have a block of code that recognizes if response.status is equal to 200, rather, we're going to alert a message of success to the user. And after the user closes the modal that pops up, we're going to redirect them to /blocks. Very nice. But if the response is unsuccessful, we still want the user to know about this, so we'll alert that the mine transactions block request did not complete. All right, that's pretty informative. Cool. That wraps up the new fetch mine transactions request. And it's hooked up to a button called mine the transactions in our overall component. So make sure you have all the changes. One thing I'm noticing though, and make sure you have this, is that the actual endpoint is mine transactions. So make sure the endpoint is mine transactions. Now the method name we got right, but make sure to type in mine transactions for the overall URL. All right, give that a save. And then in the application now, we can refresh. Let's conduct a transaction so that way there's actually something to mine. So let's give this foo address, how about 73? All right, success. We see it in the transaction pool. And now there's also this mine the transactions button. Let's click it. We get success. And now when we're redirected to the blocks endpoint, all the way at the bottom, we should see that if we open up the most recent and the last block, we have our most recent transaction within there. Okay, very cool. With this mine transactions button completed, we've, finished an initial front end for the blockchain and cryptocurrency application. So feel free to pop out the bottles of champagne to celebrate. You now have a full-on blockchain and cryptocurrency on the full stack, with both the backend and the front end covered, along with a network and a lot of very cool features. Pretty awesome stuff. Next, we're going to take this local and individual blockchain and make it public. We're going to prepare the code to let it go to production. And then we'll deploy the application and get a public URL that anyone with the link can view. Beyond that, there's going to be some additional features to add that you can include if you like, such as tracking the known addresses of wallets in the blockchain to help users discover each other, as well as a paginated blocks endpoint to help this application scale, which will also put the most recent blocks at the top of the list rather than at the last position in the list. Okay, but first, let's get to the deployment of this crypto chain application.